Hey, this is Josh Barnes with Point of View, where we discuss the crucial questions that you have about the critical issues of our day from a biblical worldview. We believe that to be right about issues, you're going to have to be biblical about issues. Check out Point of View every Monday from 4 to 6 p.m. and every Tuesday night from 8 to 8:30 right here on Right America Media Network at ramtv.live. Join us for the next episode of Point of View and let the Bible change your perspective.
Hi, America. My name is Savannah Lynn, and I'm the host of a political commentary podcast called The Savvy Truth. If you love God, love your family, and you love this country, you can tune in at Right America Media on Facebook or at ramtv.live. This podcast airs 7 Eastern and 6 Central.
I am a raging patriot. Hey, welcome to KSoK Uncensored. Today's segment is about Washington State. Now, Washington State is very diverse in landscape and political opinion. So today is going to be Southwest Washington. Actually, that's why I'm wearing my native Washingtonian t-shirt. I grew up in Southwest Washington, and though I've been an Oregonian for the past 12 years, my heart is in Southwest Washington. So we will have a segment on the Seattle area on the 29th of April. But today I have two amazing patriots from Southwest Washington. And we are going to have an hour-long show today because we have just too much to cover in a short 30-minute period of time. Something that is on my mind is the fact that in California, they are proposing a bill. Let me tell you the actual name of the bill: the new California Law Enforcement Accountability Reform Act. This is going to be voted on April 6th. And basically, they are regulating their officers, their existing officers. They are searching through their social media websites, etc., for hate speech. And it's also for any new or any applicants that want to be law enforcement officers. They are looking at their social media for hate speech. That sounds normal, right? You don't want a police officer with hate speech, but their definition of hate speech is what's concerning. And actually, industry experts are very concerned that what this bill will do is weed out Christians, pro-lifers, and conservatives altogether, as they can tag any of our conservative views to hate speech for the opponent. Very concerning. Let's hope that some sanity is left in the state of California and that does not pass. Again, that is April 6th. That is going to be voted for by the California Assembly Public Safety Committee. So look out for that. That's just the start. That's just the start, folks. Something else, top of mind, definitely very, very emotional week. We watched Colorado, Boulder, Colorado. Another shooting took place, another senseless mass shooting. You know why it's not all over the news? It's because all 10 victims are white. And that's the sad truth of it. There was a police department in the Northwest, I'm not going to be specific, and following the Atlanta shooting, there was the Stop Asian Hate campaign that went out. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that the Atlanta shootings had nothing to do with targeting Asians. It had everything to do with the fact that the individual, the shooter, he was a sex-addicted psychopath, and he was targeting sex shops. So the three parlors, massage parlors, were 24-hour massage parlors. They were on the web and known places where you can go and pay for sexual acts. That is why he targeted them. It had nothing to do with their race. But it was the perfect opportunity for the left to say, we're going to have another anti-white campaign, basically. But nothing about the Colorado shooter. Nothing there. And again, unfortunately, in this day and age, it's not surprising. And actually, the father of the law enforcement officer who was murdered in Boulder, he spoke out and said that his son would be horrified if he knew that his death was being used for gun grabbing. That just, that is all too relevant right now. And as we know, historically, the left, anytime there has been a mass shooting, they're going to go for the guns. They're going for violating our Second Amendment. And that's something that's been happening for decades, but with a heavy emphasis recently because of who's in charge right now. I'm sure you guys saw Uncle Joe's speech today. One, I refuse. I don't care who tells me that he won the presidency legitimately. I will never believe that. Just look at him. That man, you know what those saliva sticks for the people that just can't stop drooling, he's using those in his off time. He is completely unsuited to be a leader, let alone the president of the United States. He could hardly put two words together today. But the ones he was able to put together, it's because he knew ahead of time who was going to be asking him the questions, what news outlet they were from, and the subject. Now, a few of them I could tell they did go a little off topic because he was caught off guard quite a few times. Or that could just be him because he's incompetent and isn't able to answer anything that's thrown his way. He likes to use his condescending laugh and smirk, and he even asked a few of the people asking the questions if they were serious. I don't know if I heard a "come on, man," but he got close with one woman. He asked her if her question was serious. What he spoke about, he started out talking about vaccines, and then he goes into his objective to have schools reopened. He talks about the American Rescue Plan. Where he really got pinned was when he was talking about the border crisis. And basically, he had a few people, and you could tell they were from opposite ends of the spectrum, asking him. One was saying, "You're supposed to be this nice, welcoming leader. That's why all these people came here. They came here for you because you're so nice." And she was serious. And then he had someone else on the other end that basically said, "What are you doing? The capacity, it is literally at 1,556% capacity where these minors are being housed." I mean, just think about that. They are packed in like sardines. Lots of them haven't even had fresh air or seen the sunshine in days on end. And he's not willing to consider it an emergency or a crisis. They'll say it's a complicated circumstance, but they're not going there. They're not allowing to just call a spade a spade. And the whole thing is, he told them to come. He told them to come, and now he's telling them to go home. And so he's being called on the carpet for that. People brought up voter reform, and he said it's anti-American, that requiring people to show ID to vote, it's anti-American. What is it then? I mean, to me, it's common sense. But that's why the Democrats, that's why they wanted this mass influx coming from other countries. It's because they want those votes. It was just a huge disappointment, but I have zero expectations for him. And really, I watched it for entertainment. I took notes, and nothing there said leadership, nothing at all. And you guys, he can hardly walk. So as you saw, he fell up the stairs. How do you fall up the stairs? I mean, he literally fell 3 times up the stairs. Now, I'm sure you guys have all seen 100,000 memes, but that's a difficult one. Anyways, I mean, thankfully it wasn't down the stairs. We know that wouldn't have ended well. But anyways, what I want to do here is I have an amazing patriot, Justyne, and she's actually from the town I grew up in. And I would like to bring Justyne on so we can dive into all things Southwest Washington. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Kristen, how are you? I appreciate
Doing well.
being here with you today.
I'm excited to have you on. It's funny, we were trying to figure out how we even know each other. And we're like, yeah, I think we went to high school together. Nope, not it. Just
Ton of mutual friends.
That's what it is. Yeah, exactly. Well, I was impressed with you early on in June when all the rioting and protesting started, and I was feeling very alone. And then the mask mandates, I was just so angry. and I felt so alone. And when I would go on Facebook and see your posts, I felt, oh my gosh, there's somebody else who gets it. And it was just so refreshing. And that is an understatement. I mean, I appreciate you more than you know, because those were very difficult times for me. And it was before I even started my social media platform. And so I didn't have that outlet of like-minded people. And so you were really one of the first people who reassured me that now I'm not saying things are going to be okay, but at least we have people willing to fight as the ship goes down. I hate to say that, but yeah, that's where we're at. So talk to me. What ignited this raging patriot inside of you?
It's just I had enough, like you said, raging patriot. That is a really good way to describe it. When you recognize a lie, you have to confront it with the truth. And I totally believe that. So it takes courage, right? This year alone, this whole past year and everything from the beginning of the pandemic and the rioting and the
Little technical issue, just in case I'm not responding on time. Uh-oh. All right. Well, while Justyne comes back, I know that some of the topics that are near and dear to her heart are faith, for sure. She has attended so many freedom rallies in the Southwest Washington area. She has attended maskless shopping events that have been organized. She personally is bold enough not to wear a mask when she goes shopping. And that's difficult to do. And I personally did that for a while. And when I got screamed at when I was in a Target in front of my 10-year-old daughter, I'll be honest, it wore me down a little bit. And so when I am with my kids, I do wear a mask because I just don't want my daughter having to witness that, or my son having to witness that again. So the fact that Justyne is brave enough to take that on every single day really speaks to her character, and it's very impressive. I know that that Justyne also has been very vocal on social media, and that's difficult because she does have a large social media presence, and a lot of the people on her social media are friends and family and people that she does business with. And so for her to be able to take a stance and stick with it despite the outcome, that is such bravery, and not enough conservatives are willing to do that. I do feel that now is the time, and that we are seeing more and more, especially a lot more women getting involved in politics. And something that I really feel is driving that is the fact that our children have been so negatively impacted by the shutdown of the schools. A lot of women are realizing not only how negative that has been for their children, but for themselves and their family life. And that has been something that has ignited a lot of frustration and involvement in women all across the country, but heavily in liberal areas. Do we have you back? All right, we have Justyne back. We're going to bring her back on here. I hope I did her justice here. Hey,
I don't know what happened.
Hey, you know what? Luckily, I just bragged about you for the last couple minutes. So.
Oh, I appreciate that. We're in a battle, right? And there we go. So we have to get in the battle, right? So like to be strong and courageous has been my word for this year. And it just has encompassed a whole bunch of things with the mask and the school closures. And
Right.
Most importantly, the fire that's been under President Trump and
Right.
the Patriots.
Right. Absolutely. Would you say, while you were off, I was just saying that I feel like a lot more women are getting involved a lot more conservative women are getting involved in politics. And I feel like one of the drivers is the fact that our children have been out of school for a year, at least here in our neck of the woods. And it's driving us to really realize the hypocrisies happening all around us, and how wrong a lot of these movements have been, like the mask mandates, the school closures, the COVID restrictions. So I'm just curious, has has your children being so negatively impacted by everything driven you, or has that been part of why you're doing what you're doing?
That's a great question. It really has made me so angry in such a way, right? So we got to stop complaining and sitting and watching TV, and we have to get involved. And so that's what I was doing. I was going to rallies, and it was positive and it was fun. And so many people in the summer were like, just, they really wanted community, you know what I mean? And unity together and be on this fight for what's right, because we recognize the lies in culture, the lies in politics, and what's at stake. Our freedoms are at stake, you know, they're after our children, right? And so we have to be a voice in the darkness. And in order to do that, we have to discern the truth, right? And it comes from our God-given rights that are not given to us by the government. So,
yeah, no, you're spot on. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the freedom rallies that were put on, and really what went into planning them, and then really the overall vibe when you were attending them.
You know, I would have to say it started with the COLP rallies and just getting involved, because we have a dictator in office here in Washington State, and Inslee has not been consistent, and he is destroying our state. And so I was like, you know, we got to get involved. We got to get the word out. We got to blast it, right? We have to not be afraid to put the truth out there. Like, this is what's going on. This is affecting our state. This is affecting our schools and our future. And lockdowns, the mask mandate. So I went to a couple of rallies with Patriot Prayer, Joey Gibson, and a lot of.
Seems like we have another technical issue here, but just to be able to tell you guys who COLP is. So Jay Inslee is the governor over Washington State. Now, Washington State is part of the West Coast Pact, and Washington State has had some of the strictest lockdowns, just like Oregon, just like California. So COLP was running against Inslee, and actually, the last I looked, COLP came in with 45% of the vote. So it was a very close race. And actually, let's not forget that all of the states that have historically utilized mail-in voting, I highly suspect that there has been voter fraud taking place for decades. I mean, you think about just here in Oregon, we were the very first state to have mandated mail-in voting, and we haven't been red since. Justyne is back. Let's bring her back in. This happens. It happens. It's the nature of the beast. Hey, you know,
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
It happens.
So you're
to say it. I can fill in the
like
blanks.
I said, we're in a battle. You know what I mean? But yeah.
No, so I was explaining who COLP is, because COLP came in with 45% of the vote against Inslee, so close. And then I was talking about how I feel that there has definitely been some historic voter fraud happening in Washington, Oregon, because of the mail-in voting that we've been having. So who knows? COLP could have won, just like what happened with our presidency.
Well, there's still an investigation going on, and you know, we have to just not let our state go to ruin, right? It causes you to get involved. And I totally believe that greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. And we're in a battle that is a light and darkness, okay? Good versus evil. And we have to remember that there are agendas, and there's a lot of really, really disgusting, evil agendas on the Democrat and liberal left side of things. And so there's so many people that don't get involved, right? So we have to get involved, because the future of our nation and the future of our children, right? Their future is under fire right now. Okay. And faith, family, and freedom.
Right.
So, I mean, we have to really get involved, you know, and there's so many weak conservatives. I can't say that enough. We have to stop being afraid. Like we have to recognize the truth, confront the lie, bring out the truth, and we have to discern that, right? And it takes, being strong and courageous. It takes wisdom. We have to know right from wrong. And unless we get off of this roller coaster rant of life right now, we're not going to be able to make progress. They're just going to take over, and it's going to be ugly. And so we have to get off the bench and onto the battlefield. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I completely agree. I'm curious, in your personal life, since you've so strongly taken a stance, have you lost friends? Have you had family members that don't want to interact with you right now? Have you had any negative experiences like that?
I appreciate you asking that question, and that's a hard thing to go through. There has been rejection, but when you stand up for the truth and what's right, it's going to cost you something. So when I started really supporting President Trump and getting in the battlefield and making an impact, it got people upset. They're like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't like what's going on. I see what's going on. I see that the church is under attack. There's a sifting in the church right now. And we need to support the good policies. We need to stand up for what's right and not be afraid. And so, yeah, it's caused me to get out there, like against the mask. You know what I mean? We have to they don't work, and they're so flip-flop. We can't trust the CDC. They have so many lies. They're inconsistent. And then you look at, the WHO and Fauci, and it's a giant, you have to pray for them, and then you get wisdom. And that's what I did. I prayed for wisdom, and the Lord gave me wisdom so I could see the truth. I could see what's really happening,
That's amazing.
So yeah, I just wanted to add that in there.
Is that the hat you sport at Costco?
I've worn lots of different hats. I've gone into Costco with my American flag even, and I try really hard to not get into conflicts with people, but I go in there and I just say, I don't need that. I'm not afraid of this thing in the air. Masks don't work. We need to, in fact, they're actually demonic if we want to get right down to it, because it's a tool, manipulation tool to get us to stop breathing and smiling, because the devil would like nothing more than to keep us shut up, living in fear, and not making an impact. Okay. Because we're walking around like little scaredy cats. And we wash our hands. I mean, there's been lots of viruses.
Right. That really speaks to me because I have a 10-year-old daughter, and when she wears a mask, it just bothers me so much. When she wears a mask, it's like her personality gets sucked, and it's really strange. It's so sad to see.
Mm-hmm.
And so yesterday at Fred Meyer, for those of you who don't know, Fred Meyer is like an amazing grocery store here. But I ripped it off her face because I saw my little girl she just seems so meek and weak. And I was like, nope. And so then it was like her personality came back. So you're absolutely spot on. I've witnessed that firsthand with my baby, and it makes me sick. And I completely agree.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. And we have been an unmasked family, and we don't push it all over the place, at all. But if somebody wants to wear one, that's fine. But please don't make it like a mandate rule and have us get involved. Have it become this thing where this is part of our life now. Like we put on shoes. Right. No, that doesn't work,
Right.
Exactly. And so, we have to confront it. Enough is enough. We're going on 13 months of this garbage. Right. And like I said, we have to be a voice in the darkness. And so it causes people to run off, and it's sad, but it's the ultimate truth. And there's more at stake, and that means more. And you know what? I gained a whole bunch more friends, and it's been great. I've had lots of great conversations. There's been conversations that haven't gone so well. And we have to remember how we respond on social media, because it can get really ugly sometimes. So just sometimes not responding or thinking about it is probably the best way, especially when they come off attacking you, kind of like what the media has been doing.
Right. Yeah.
So, we have to be a beacon of light too, to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're so right. One of my go-tos for insult is I'll be like, you're clever, just like a little, and then, It shuts them up because they realize I'm just being sarcastic. But yeah, people can be nasty. So yeah, and you have to be
Well,
bold.
and
They want to be quiet.
I love what you
Go
just
ahead.
said, that we have to be bold. We have to be bold.
Right.
And so it scares people, right? Because it makes them think. Like they think, well, that doesn't make sense, or I don't get into politics. No, no, no. I said, no, Jesus has been very political. He got involved. He stood up for what was right, what was wrong. And we need to do
Right.
that. And there's so much at stake, and we have to know what the Constitution says. We have
Right.
to know that God has given us, freedom, and it comes from him first. And
Right.
we're in a nation that
Looks like we have another little blip, but we are coming right up to the end. Oh, all right. Well, you're back right in time. What I'd like to do, we are right up on the end of your segment, and we're going to bring Wadi in. And I just appreciate you being on here so much. It means a lot to me. And like I said, going way back to June, might even have been end of May. You really were that beacon of light for me. So that means a lot.
I appreciate that.
I'm proud of you.
Kristen, can I mention one more thing, just real quick?
Yes.
So getting involved also is about being like a part of, your city councils, your
That's too bad. It must be, she lives out in the country, so it must be that internet out there. Oh, you back? Let's try it one more time, Justine. Let's bring you back in and see if we can get your.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I do. I live out in the country and I love it. That was the best part about 2020 was getting the few acres. But real quick, I got, I'm involved with the Clark County Republican Party, the Women's Group 1, and my friend Heidi St. John is running for Congress, and so I decided to join her campaign team to help her out and blast the word. And I know there's so many other great candidates running as well, and I think that's so amazing. It's caused so many people to get involved because we're tired of rhino traitors that don't do the job of the people. We the people. And to work for us, and that you're not working for other evil agendas, So I'm excited about that because, like I said, we have to get off the bench and onto the battlefield. And if we don't, then there's going to be more decay happening. And so, so I appreciate you having me on today, Kristen, and thank you for
my pleasure.
The issues
my pleasure.
Of the internet here, but
we were battling that internet connection, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm speaking the truth. I want people to know that, greater is he who's in you than he who's in the world. And it really is a battle. And we have to be on our knees. We have to be praying for our leaders and our politicians. Right. And we have to just get involved and not sit around. You know what I mean? Because it affects everybody. Politics affects everybody, no matter what. And so I can't say that enough. And I want to leave people with just these two words that's been mine. That my word this year is strong and courageous. You can be strong and courageous. You can get off the bench and onto the battlefield and be afraid, because in the Bible it says, do not fear 365 times. It talks about not being afraid. And that's one for every single day. And so we don't have to be afraid, and we have to take a stand. And so I appreciate you having me on today.
I love that. Oh, absolutely. I think that speaks to all of us, really. That's wonderful. I appreciate that. Well, Justine, we'll do this again. I appreciate you so much, and thank you for being so involved in your community, which I call home. So I appreciate you. And with that, we're going to bring in our next guest. We have Wadi here. And speaking of friendly competition, Wadi is actually running for the same spot in Congress that Justine's friend is running for. And so, it is, and I had no idea when I had put the guest list together for today, I had no idea that both parties happened to be affiliated with or running for the same. But it keeps it interesting. And I think the point is that we are working to get the incumbent out so we can get somebody worthwhile in. With that, Wadi, do we have you live here? We're having some more internet connection issues. I can see you staring at me, but it appears you're frozen. Well, I can talk meanwhile. I mean, I've been doing it. So Wadi, and I'm going to give him an introduction, and then once he's back in, he can speak to his background. But he actually is a family friend. So he's known my sister a long time and grew up in the town I grew up in. And so he actually served in the U.S. military. I wrote down his title here because I didn't have it memorized. But he served in the U.S. Navy as an air crewman, chief of staff, or excuse me, as an air crewman. And then he went from the military. He actually worked for the Trump administration as the chief of staff of selective service. Oh, we have you. Yay. We're going to bring him in now. Man,
Something's wrong with the internet today. I'm telling you.
Good Lord. You guys out in the country in Southwest Washington giving me heart palpitations. No, I'm just
I had a couple just now, so I'm glad we're back.
I'm sure. Well, I didn't get very far, so that worked out well. You're going to do a much better introduction of yourself than I just did because I blended your two titles together. So I just did say, though, family friend. I had never met you, still never met you in person, but found out you've been friends with my sister forever. And would you agree? So I just booked my sister for April 6th. So she's going to do a segment on addiction. And would you agree that she's more savage than I am, just based on what you know? Because people don't believe me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think she's going to do a really good job.
Oh, she'll
you better be careful.
Sure.
She might end up your co-host if you're not careful.
She might. I know. Well, Juan has to have. What do you think? I think Juan's going to have the beeper on just in case some curse words go flying. We'll see. She'll keep him busy. But no, I'm excited to have her on. I had put something on my Instagram stories and I said, the original savage. And people were like, she's not more savage than you. I'm like, yeah, she is, like times 20. So anyways, it'll be entertaining for sure. But let's talk about you. You have so much going on. You're super interesting. Grew up in Southwest Washington, went to serve in the military. Can you talk to us about that?
Oh, yeah. So if there's anything, to introduce myself just to the audience, if there's anything to know about me, there's three things. I'm a Navy veteran. I'm a former appointee in the Trump administration, and I'm a candidate for Congress in Southwest Washington. And I was born and raised here. You know, I went to Prairie High School, graduated in 2004. The first job I ever had, I don't know if your listeners would know this, but the first job I ever had was working the cash register at Burgerville. In Old Salmon Creek.
Burgerville's the best. Oh my gosh. I am so lucky I don't have one by me because I would be ballooning up pretty quick here. Good
yeah,
place.
It's now that I'm back home, I've been going there a little too frequently, but but yeah, and then I joined the Navy in 2008. I wanted to do something kind of cool, so I became a naval air crewman as an aviation warfare systems operator. So if there's any AWs right now who are listening to this, please go to wadiforcongress.com and throw your brother $20, please.
I like it. Hey, a shameless ask. You have to do it.
Yeah. And so I did that for about 6 years, and it was really exciting. You know, aviation warfare is mainly, submarine tracking and hunting. So a lot of Russian submarines, Chinese, North Korea, even surveillance on, some countries that we may not be at war with yet. And I had a great deployment where I spent in Central America, where we went out there to the Pacific and we'd fly around and look for the drug smugglers puttering around in the middle of the Pacific. And that was probably my most memorable deployment because there was just so much going on. And I learned a lot out there just about the war on drugs and how frequently these people are pouring into our country with millions and millions of dollars of narcotics. And now hearing that Washington State has introduced a bill, I think 1 or 2 days ago, to emulate what Portland's doing and legalize all hard drugs. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll see if it passes. Oh, I can't hear you. I think you're muted, Kristen.
Yeah, I think. All right, we're in. You know what? Today is just the survival. That'll be the survival of the fittest. That'll be the title of the show. Technology can be a beast. It sure can. But no, so I know it's crazy. So basically, they are in Portland. They've made it to where these. They don't like to say they've legalized these hard drugs. They've decriminalized. But come on. I mean, it's like it's ridiculous. And I have no doubt that it's going to pass in Washington State. Washington, Oregon, and California, they're part of this, that West Coast Pact. And yeah, it was supposed to be specific to COVID, but they seem to just follow suit. So I think it's probably coming your way, unfortunately.
And it hurts our law enforcement. What are they supposed to do? No police officer wants to become a glorified speed ticket writer. They want to actually get in and help the community take out a lot of these bad things that are happening, and they're not allowed to do that.
Right. Yep. No, their hands are tied for sure. It's been really pitiful to watch.
My mom was a cop, not a cop. My mom was a police officer for 20 years in Clark County.
Really?
And it was rough because, I kind of lived through her from the sidelines on some of the things she dealt with. And I'm glad she retired before all this defund the police stuff started happening, because I don't want my mom to have to deal with that,
That's
you pull people over, and now police officers, it's justified to abuse them, based on what the media says and what society says. And that's horrible. That's my mom,
Right. Oh yeah. No, that's where I had no idea that your mom was in law enforcement. So that's amazing. And yeah, I'm happy
she raised me well.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I had no idea. And my husband's abused like every night at work. So it's horrible. And he has the ability to put up with it. I mean, he doesn't put up with full on abuse, but he puts up with the verbal abuse. And I don't know how he does it. It wouldn't work for me, but that's why he's the police officer and not me. But I want to jump into your Trump administration, everything that you did under Trump and what your experience was like.
Oh my goodness. So when I got out of the Navy in 2014, I was using my GI Bill. I went to Washington State University, Vancouver, and was majoring in strategic communications, which I'm very glad I chose that. It's one of my favorite. Communications and computers are my two favorite things in the world and my best skill sets. But nice. I needed a little bit more because, I don't know, college wasn't taking my full time. I was taking a little bit more extra than usual for the semester. I just wanted to get my degree, check that box off. Like I think a lot of veterans who get out just want to just get their degree, just so people will say, well, do you have your degree when doing job interviews? Well, no, but I was in the military for 6, 7, 8 years. Isn't that job experience? Well, today, not so much, unfortunately, which I don't agree with. So I wanted to find ways to, work on my professional skill sets and also serve the community. And I saw the rise of a presidential candidate that was willing to boldly challenge the status quo. And I knew I had to do everything I could to help him. So I kind of stumbled into the local campaign headquarters for the West Coast was in Vancouver, Washington. Nice. And so I stumbled in through the front doors and said, I want to help. And they said, we got plenty of things for you to do. So I was building signs 7 days a week while going to school full time. And I was happy doing it. And eventually they asked, they needed additional staff to do just the things that I love, digital communications and some of the processing of volunteers for Trump Talk and all those outlets. And I applied for the job, and I love to brag about this, but the month after I became a paid member of the Trump team, we had processed more volunteers for Washington State alone than Texas had. So,
oh wow, that's huge.
Yeah, that's incredible. It didn't last long. Texas eventually beat us in the numbers, but our heart was in there in the beginning. And so, and then we won the general election. And that was kind of it. I thought it was over. I would go find a job and go find something else to do. But I got a phone call and they said I had about 2 weeks to get out to Washington, D.C. to go work for the Trump administration. And I said, absolutely. I'm used to living out of a suitcase from all my days in the Navy. So I packed up a suitcase and I went to DC. And it was one of the most memorable events for me because January 20th, 2017, I have my inauguration tickets and everything, but I couldn't go to inauguration. There was work to do. So we were all sitting in the Department of Interior and we were watching the inauguration live, which was just happening a few blocks down the road from us. You could hear the crowd a little bit.
How
And
cool.
as soon as Mr. Trump swore in and became the president, we all put our hands up. We swore our oath, and we hit the ground running. We went and found our offices, and we got to work.
That
So
is
I
that
started
gives
off.
chills. So cool.
Yeah, I started off as the special assistant to the Secretary of Interior, Ryan Zinke. But I only did that for about 6 months because it was the beachhead team. It was the first initial wave of about 300 people only in Washington, D.C., representing the president. And so so I did the special assistant thing for a while. I traveled with the secretary, made sure that he was going where he needed to be, saw a lot of parts of the country I've never been to, national parks, which I never really had the time to visit.
Right.
And I loved it. And everybody, I think that was one of the best experiences I had for the administration because it was a lot of fun. I love to travel. I love to see new things. And
Right.
that's what I did for that initial time. But then I went over to the Selective Service System as a special advisor,
Okay.
which was fun. I did that for about 6 or 7 months. Same thing, like I said, comms and computers. I use those skills to really get the best out of any job I do. So in my case, I can do something in about an hour that would probably take the regular government employee about a week to do.
Wow. Probably
So
true.
I got
Yeah.
6 months. Then I lost you for a minute. There we go. We're back. I'm really nervous about this Comcast internet. But eventually I proved myself. I showed that I'm good at what I do, and I was promoted to chief of staff of the agency, and that's
Okay.
what I did for the majority of the Trump administration. I had that job for almost 3 years, and we
Wow.
made a lot of things happen at Selective Service, and we got a lot of great things done.
That's awesome. I listened to your TED Talk and you were talking about how people thought that there was a draft happening. Like there was some social media storm, and so people thought there was a draft looming. And you addressed that, and you were talking about like perception and then how the social media and media in general can just mislead the masses, and it caused this unnecessary concern. What was that like, putting the fire out on your end?
Oh, just the timing was perfect actually, because the TED Talk was scheduled, 6, 7 months in advance, and then all this crazy stuff happened with the Soleimani and Iran, and so it kind of gave me something to shift my presentation about, which was perception, and it was interesting because I was running the public affairs shop for Selective Service as well as the acting associate director of public and intergovernmental affairs. So we were dealing with a lot of the press inquiries. We were dealing with a lot of the congressional inquiries. And that was kind of my moment to say, there's no draft happening. Every time something happens significant in our society, everybody wants to believe that it's, a draft is happening. A draft is imminent. That's not true. It takes a lot. If there was a draft, we would be ramping up for it. We would be talking about it. A lot of young people in the draft age, 18 to 25 men, they think that it's just a push of the button and you get something in the mail. This is the government. Nothing ever happens that fast. So if there was a draft, you would hear about it from your elected officials. They'd be discussing it. They would be debating it. And eventually Congress and the president would have to agree on something for once back then. And that's when a draft would happen. But as a third tier of defense, it's very unlikely. It would have to be something very, very, very serious for a draft to happen. And I can tell you that they're never going to use that. Not never, but not for a while, unless something big happened.
Yeah, no, that's it is pretty wild how this misperception can go out and just cause such unnecessary. I mean, if you think about it, look at COVID right now. I'm like, these people, there's still people wearing gloves at the grocery store. The double masks. I mean, oh my gosh. I know my friend Wade popped something up there and it said, I wear 8 masks. He's totally kidding. But
I saw that.
I thought I saw you.
But
laugh.
it's about that. As a strategic communications major, you learn about messaging and dissemination of it, and how you can, as long as you repeat it and you repeat it, people are going to believe it. And you repeat it enough, and you repeat it loudly, and to a point where it took over our entire lives for the last year. It doesn't matter if it's correct information or not. It doesn't matter if it's inconsistent. It was about what is being said now, and why aren't you doing it, or why aren't I doing it?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's crazy. It's madness. Okay, I want to talk about, unless you're not ready to pivot, but you're doing some big things in Southwest Washington and running for Congress. And I want to know, one, what made you decide that this was the right move, and how did you kick that off?
Well, I actually, after my job ended on January 20th, that was a rough day for me. I was looking at West Virginia, like a lot of Washingtonians are. They were just looking at.
What's with West Virginia?
It's just a red state. It's just a place where people are more like-minded. The policies, the laws. You don't have to worry about. Frankly, Jay Inslee, if he wanted to come take our guns, I wouldn't put it past him to sign something and then just make it happen, because he's so emboldened to it. I don't want to fearmonger or anything like that, but I don't think that we would have those problems in West Virginia or, any of the other more conservative states. I think the local politicians would be more, they would defend the people as opposed to whatever weird agendas are going on right now. So and at the same time, West Virginia property is very cheap. You can get a nice 10, 15 acres on a 1,200 square foot house for what would cost you for a size of land this big in Washington State. So, and I wonder that myself. Why do they elect Manchin? That's one of the questions that just popped up. I just think that it's an interesting thing with politics, name recognition, the devil, he's very popular in that area. And I think as long as he, doesn't go too far left, they will always keep him in that spot. So that was a great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
So anyways, back to, I got a little distracted, but so I was looking at West Virginia, but no, that's okay. But really my home, the district, the congressional district, Southwest Washington, where I grew up in, the hometown representative, Jamie Herrera Butler, voted to impeach President Trump. And I don't know why she did that, besides maybe a haphazard decision. Maybe she's spending too much time with her Democrat friends in Washington, D.C., because she doesn't really do too much in the home district. But that was one reason why. And I've been looking at this seat for a long time, because that representative was one of them that decided to keep Obamacare in 2017. And there were some other things that she did that I'm not a fan of. And I look at that seat and I say, why do we have this representation there that doesn't actually represent us of Southwest Washington? She represents herself, her personal agenda. And sadly, the way that the political system is, it's very hard to take on an incumbent without justification to do it. People will always vote for the person on the list, the incumbent, because I call it the devil politics. She's not the greatest, but we don't know about the rest of these people. that's a terrible way to vote people into office. So
Right.
with this opportunity that arisen, and everybody's upset, at least anybody who's paying attention in Southwest Washington, they don't want her anymore. But she is emboldened to the fact that she thinks she's going to keep the seat. She'll maybe go to the Democrat. The Democrats right now see her as a hero. And it's they're going to eat her alive when the general election happens if she makes it to that point and there's a Democrat for them to vote for. So she'll try to weasel her way through the primary, but I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to do everything I can to keep her from getting that seat, keeping that seat.
Now, didn't she recently said something like, "I'm not going anywhere," right? Didn't she openly admit that she probably realizes it's her time to go, but the ego gets in the way in many cases and they can't help themselves. So I don't know.
And that's the scary thing about. No, that's the
Right.
scary thing. It is. They become, they always start off as a regular person, just like you and just like me. And something happens in Washington, D.C. that kind of corrupts them and morphs them. I don't know what it is. I spent 4 years in Washington, D.C., and I walked away the same person I was. And I intend to stay that way because I'm very consistent.
Right.
But something's going on there, and I don't know what it is, because she uses liberal talking points to describe her voter base. And that's the worst thing that you can do in a conservative district like this.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, growing up there, it's like 4-wheel drives, you've got American flags, you've got Blue Lives Matter flags. I mean, come on. Like, that's like, and it's so frustrating that Washington State, just like here in Oregon with Portland, you're dictated by Seattle. So it's very disappointing that there is a local leader that really her ideals belong more up in the Seattle area, unfortunately. So yeah, I think it's I think number one, show people that it's time for her to go. That's like the main objective. I'd love to see her out of that seat, out of that position. Because like I said, I want to move back to Southwest Washington at some point in the near future. So this impacts
I would
me
like
too.
to stay in Southwest Washington. We have to stand and we have to fight. We cannot let the liberals take over our district. I mean,
Right.
we have to make this district last for at least 10 more years. Before that time, I think people will eventually wake up as the left gets a little bit more emboldened and a little bit more crazier with the policies that they introduce. If we can fight and hold the ground, I think we'll have an American awakening, a Washingtonian awakening in the next decade. And I want to be in that seat to make sure that we can push that up.
Absolutely. Correct me if I'm wrong. So in 2016, wasn't Washington State almost as close as, let's see, I believe it was like a 45% of Trump, or people voted for Trump. Like,
Trump
I
wins
feel like
this district.
Wins that
This is
district, but I believe Washington State as a whole, I believe it was really close between Hillary and Trump in 2016, which just shows you it's possible. I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to have to double check that. But like, I was on the campaign in 2016, and it was one of those things where even though you're probably not going to win the state, you still got to do everything that you can to get the message out and try to win at least.
All right. So we have
so there's a way for people to donate to my campaign. If you go to wadiforcongress.com, WADI for Congress.com, and you click the donate button, that's a way to get me some money and help get a little bit more messaging. We're going to work on commercials. We have to do printouts. There's a lot of money in politics, and that's why you don't see a lot of people running. A lot of people want to run for office, but once they realize the technicalities and all the things that they have to do to run for office, it's rough. And it is, the first year is a fundraising grind. And any contribution can help, because I think Jamie Herrera Butler has about $1.5 million in her wallet right now. And we do have other candidates out there, and we're all asking for money. But I ask, if you think that I'm the candidate to represent Southwest Washington and you just want some integrity in Congress in general, please go to my website, wadiforcongress.com, donate $5, $20, and if you can do 100, I'd really appreciate that. And if you're a
Awesome.
Southwest Washington resident listening, volunteer for some, volunteer your time. Come work on the campaign. Come help me out, because we can win this seat. It's just going to take a lot of work with 1.5 years to the primary.
Right. No, that's excellent. I love that you're doing this. I know what you're talking about. Just a few minutes left here, and I'll just chime in. I had thought about running for something at one point, and it was funny. I mentioned that to you when we first talked, and you were like, yeah, you're like on the phone asking for money for like the first year. I'm like, that sounds horrible. I'm like, I would hate that. That would put me out of my comfort zone so far. But
it's very awkward.
for you. It's amazing. That would be so awkward. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I'd be like beet red the first time probably. So I give it to you, because that is not easy. It is not glorified. It's a lot of work, and I think it's fantastic that you are doing this. You're putting yourself out there like you are, and with your history, with everything else you've done for our country. I mean, God bless you. What an amazing patriot, and I'm so happy that we were able to get you on the show today. And
it was a huge honor for me. Thank you.
I'll be watching closely to see how things turn out for you. And like I said, happy to help you out however I can. I'm not as technical as you, but I can help you out in whatever realm you need.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I appreciate you very much. And all right. Well, I want to say thank you guys for tuning into KSoK Uncensored, Southwest Washington. And like I said, we're going to be splitting Washington into 2 segments. There's just so much to cover. And Seattle is a whole other ball game. And I argue that Seattle is worse than Portland. And we have 2 Seattle residents that are willing to chime in and put themselves out there. And I am going to hang on. Don't go anywhere. I am going to wander into Keith Sanders' office here, his glowing blue office, and hopefully we'll have a little banter. I'm sure he has a bone to pick with me again today. Not sure what I've done. I purposely didn't call him my 2 cents like I did last week, so just steering clear of that.
Hey, there I am. I made it. Just barely made it.
Nice. I'm like running out of hay.
Yeah, we were waiting on Juan there. Juan, all your fault, buddy. He's beating himself up over there. You guys can't see it, but he is.
Oh
KSoK, I have a very interesting fact for you for the week. Are you ready for the interesting fact?
I'm ready. Yes.
I do not have a bone to pick with you. It's crazy. We had a good one.
No.
We're having a good handoff. It's a little bit boring. I've been really stressed today, and I was like, what is my bone to pick with KSoK today? And I just couldn't pull one out. I watched your show, though. Really good show.
Good. Thank you. Yes, great Patriots on today. It's really exciting. We had to extend to an hour because it was just like, we can't, there's too much goodness here to pack into 30 minutes. So
I love it. Awesome.
Good. But thank you so much. And please have something for me. I like trash talking. Maybe it's my turn. Maybe I'm going to have to trash talk you next week.
So you cannot claim that you like trash talking if you don't do it yourself. It's a 2-way street. Okay. You got to give it.
Yeah.
I want it.
Oh yeah. All right.
Bring it to me.
I have to think about it. Yeah. I'll have to, I could call you out for that Strength Finder book, but I'll leave it there.
Still don't know what you're talking about. Hey, nice to see you, KSoK. Have a good night.